Daniel Sports Central will be going over a college bowl game preview and prediction on a big matchup coming up in Week 14. And this one's going to be between the Oklahoma State Cowboys and the TCU Horned Frogs, both teams of which have had pretty good seasons. There's no doubt on that. I mean, especially TCU, who's 4-4 right now. I mean, I understand 4-4 is not a really good record, but for TCU being a team that's pretty young, especially heading into this season, this has been a pretty impressive year out of TCU, and I think the future is definitely bright for the Horned Frogs right now. But meanwhile, for Oklahoma State, they're 6-2. Still got a good opportunity to make it to the Big 12 championship. So this is going to be a crucial game for Oklahoma State on their side especially. We're going over a full game preview and prediction on this one here today, starting out with your team trends. And of course, Oklahoma State beat Texas Tech previously just last week. 50-44 was the final score there. And that was kind of a scary shootout there for the Cowboys. I mean, Texas Tech hung on for a good chunk of that game, and it looked like Texas Tech possibly was going to pull a big comeback win there in the end. But in the end, Oklahoma State hung on. They won that one 50-44. Meanwhile, for TCU, they beat Kansas 59-23 was the final score there, so they blew out the Jayhawks. But then again, Kansas is Kansas. They were a terrible team, or they are a terrible team this season. So, I mean, that really is, it's not all that big of a signature win, but still, it's a good win for TCU heading into a big matchup like this is for them. But for the winning streaks, both these teams, Oklahoma State is currently ranked 19th in the nation according to your AP poll. They're 6-2 with a one-game winning streak. Then TCU is 4-4 with a one-game winning streak as well. So both teams have kind of had a rough stretch, especially through November. I mean, if you look at TCU, they've won 3 of their last 4. So, I mean, they've had a terrible past November. But for Oklahoma State on their side, I mean, they got blown out to Oklahoma a couple of weeks ago. And they also had a bad loss to Texas back on Halloween, which definitely was a bad loss for them, because ever since they really haven't looked the same. But I mean, Oklahoma State is still a very good team, and I definitely think that they're capable of making it to the Big 12 championship. They just got to hope that Oklahoma screws up this next week, and they also got to hope that they get a win here against a TCU team that's been actually pretty good this season. So TCU is not a team that you want to sleep on by any means in this matchup, is what I will say. Games to be on Saturday, December 5th, noon Eastern in Fort Worth. So the Horned Frogs will be your home team here. Oklahoma State is favored by 2.5 according to the spread, but the ESPN FPI is going with a surprise pick here, 54% towards TCU right now, which that really surprised me when I first saw it, not going to lie, because, I mean, Oklahoma State right now is 6-2, and, I mean, they're a ranked team. That's definitely one of the better ones in the Big 12, and TCU on their side is 4-4. They've got 2 more losses than the Cowboys do at this point, and TCU is still, I would say, kind of a not as skilled of a team as Oklahoma State is right now. So for them to be favored in the FPI is kind of unusual, but still good for TCU. That shows pretty well for the ESPN FPI. But for the Vegas prediction, 34-30 is the final score. Oklahoma State currently is favored according to your Vegas prediction. Here's your stat comparison for this one. Oklahoma State's got 28 points per game, 24 points allowed. They got 214 pass yards a game, 192 rush yards. Then for yards allowed, they got 212 passing and 162 rushing. As for TCU, they got 28 points per game, 26 points allowed. They got 192 rush yards a game, as well as 197 rush yards. Then for yards allowed, they got 221 passing and 134 rushing. So, I mean, if you look at Oklahoma State here, this is a team that really started out well, especially in the quarterback position, but ever since, it's been kind of degressing, especially over November. I mean, Spencer Sanders, I mean, he's been the quarterback for Oklahoma State, who's had a pretty good season. I mean, he's put up over 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions, so he has not had that terrible of a season. It's just been the interceptions for him that have kind of gotten to him there, but all around, still not a terrible season for Spencer Sanders. But as for the rushing position, that's where Oklahoma State is pretty good, as they've currently got 192 average yards per game. Then for yards allowed, this defense does allow quite a bit, especially on the rushing side of things. This rush defense does need to improve heading into this matchup. As for TCU, they got 28 points per game, 26 points allowed. Once again, 192 pass yards a game. They got more rush yards than pass yards per game, as they've got 197 rush yards and then 192 passing. And then for yards allowed, they got 221 passing and 134 rushing. So, I mean, the big thing is for Oklahoma State here is that they're allowing quite a few yards for the rushing defense. And the problem is for them in this matchup is that TCU is actually getting quite a few rush yards per game so far this year. So you got to consider that if you're Oklahoma State here. Definitely want to work on your rush defense heading into this matchup. But here's some key points for this one. Oklahoma State is still a contender. There's no doubt on that. I mean, Oklahoma State is definitely a talented team, and I don't think, I mean, their chances of making it to the playoff are pretty much up by now, but I still think Oklahoma State can win a Big 12 title. It's just going to be, I mean, they need some help from Oklahoma. They do not want Oklahoma to win their game this week. And then Oklahoma State on the other side, I mean, you got to beat TCU here. There's no doubt on that. So this is a mandatory win for Oklahoma State if they're still wanting to make it to the Big 12 championship. But TCU, they're quietly a good team. This is a TCU team that's been kind of an inconsistent team in the past. But this season, I mean, TCU's been pretty good. They're 4-4. I mean, it's not a great record, but TCU is still a pretty talented team here. I think they're definitely capable of taking down Oklahoma State in this matchup. But Oklahoma State definitely still has a chance at winning the Big 12 once again, and that's why this game is so crucial. I mean, if Oklahoma State loses here, their chances of making it to the Big 12 championship are up too. I mean, that puts you at 3 losses, and that also puts you out of the rankings, so that is not a good position to be in as we head towards the postseason, which is soon approaching. And TCU on the flip side, I mean, they're kind of towards the bottom of the Big 12 in the standings at this point. They're in the second half, but still, I mean, they still have a good chance to make it to a good bowl game. So for TCU, if you can have a 5-4 record here, that is a good look heading into the postseason, which once again is coming up pretty soon. But in the end, I've got Oklahoma State winning. I think the Cowboys are too good of a team in this situation. I mean, halftime score is going to be 17-14. We're going to see a close game here at the start especially, but in the final, 34-24 is going to be the final score. Oklahoma State gets the win. I just think Oklahoma State's too good of a team in this situation. They're going to get a pretty good win over TCU, but it's going to be close. I think we see a close game for pretty much the entire time here. We just see Oklahoma State start to pull away a bit later in the fourth quarter, which is why we see a 10-point win. But probably here's going to be 70% towards Oklahoma State. I'm pretty confident here that we do see Oklahoma State get the win. But let me know your thoughts and comments below on this one. If you enjoyed this video, slap a like on it, subscribe as well if you're not already yet, as it really helps with the channel, and I'd really appreciate that. But as always, thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll see y'all later.